Brandon, does your wife listen to the podcast?
Yeah, she may dabble. If it's on her Spotify list, like it's one of the things, I subscribe to our podcast. So I think maybe sometimes she'll accidentally listen to the first few minutes, maybe.
Well, I I record these things and my wife is like, "Oh, you're recording a podcast." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Well, the other day she's like, "Yeah, I tried to listen." And I was like, "Oh, that's great, being supportive, trying to tune in." And she's like, "I got about 5 minutes in and I couldn't do it anymore."
No, no. What I gotta know is, was it you or was it me? There's nobody else we can blame. Like literally, nobody else has been on the podcast in months. So she got sick of either you or me. And honestly, for your sake, I hope it was me that she got sick of and couldn't listen to.
She didn't say, and I don't think I wanted the answer.
Oh man, I really hope it was me, John.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, we were in this spot the last time we recorded. We were like, thank goodness we waited until the next game to record. I guess I'm feeling the same thing because the Thunder did come back to win Game 4, and we are at a 2-2 series tie. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling really good. I am very excited to go to Paycom Center Tuesday night and watch Game 5. I think the crowd is going to be electric. It's going to be like the blue and white striped crowd as far as like T-shirts goes. So I think it's going to look outstanding both in arena and on TV. I think the team is going to play much better at home. So I'm excited about Game 5.
Yeah, and let's go back to Game 3. All right, before Game 3, I think you and I were both optimistic that the Thunder had figured some things out in Game 2, that they would play well in Game 3, and we hoped and probably expected that the Thunder would take Game 3. And really, I think I wouldn't disagree that the Thunder were the better team in that game. But yet again, just like Game 1, they lost that game. What happened between Game 2 and Game 3?
Just changed the venues. You went from OKC to Denver. And so obviously you lose the enormous advantage you have with the Thunder crowd. But then you go to Denver. They've got a great crowd. They've been waiting to cheer on the Nuggets and cheer against the Thunder, who they've kind of had a vendetta against all season long because of the MVP race. And, the elevation thing may have had something to do with it. I can't speak to it, but they say it's a thing. So maybe that's a thing. And ultimately, the Thunder once again were in control for the majority of the game and looked like the better team for the majority of the game. And it came down to, some clutch time. I know it wasn't like Game 1 where the Thunder were in full control and totally dominated and, wish they could take some things back as far as strategy and fouling and things like that go in the timing of it. This was more, it was a closer game. But while watching that game, I still felt like the Thunder were the better team and they let it go and they had it, especially when they were up 102-99, like it should have been a win. So another heartbreaker. But I don't think so much it was figuring things out or not figuring things. I think the Nuggets may have figured some things out between games 2 and 3, if anything.
Well, now that we have a multi-game sample size, the Thunder in Game 3 shot 9 of 35, and we'll talk about the shooting performance in Game 4 as well. But knowing what you know, should you be worried about the Thunder's shooting?
I would worry about the Thunder shooting on the road. I'm not as concerned about the Thunder shooting at home. I mean, role players always shoot better at home, although it was the role players in Game 4 who shot the lights out and really saved the game and saved possibly the series and saved possibly the Thunder's, chances at a title this season between Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso. I know we'll get to that later, the specifics, but I'm not concerned about the Thunder shooting as a whole. It's more of a widespread, like, teams are packing the paint against Shea and J-Dub, trying to take away the drive. They're playing zones, they're doubling, they're trappling, they're almost doing like box and one. So they're throwing all these different schemes and zones. And on the road, when you're already at a disadvantage, it's the shooting has been an issue. I just one of those like believe in a larger sample size, and it's hard for me it's hard for me in my mind to just forget about the fact that the Thunder were the best 3-point shooting team all of last year, and they were the best 3-point shooting team from the start of the calendar 2025 until the end of the regular season. So I can't get that out of my mind, like the larger sample size. So I'm not super concerned about the shooting, but obviously if they're going to make a run, the shooting's got to get better.
Yeah, and I guess if you want to blame some areas that were the difference maker, you got to look at the shooting as a primary factor, because you look at Denver's statistics. If you looked at the box score, and the Thunder held Nikola Jokic to 8 of 25 shooting, he was 0 of 10 from the 3-point line. After game 1, where the Nuggets dominated the offensive boards, in game 3, the Thunder out-rebounded the Nuggets on the offensive side of the ball 18-5. They won the turnover battle. They scored more points in transition. They scored more points in the paint than the Nuggets, and they scored more points on second chance buckets. And yet, despite all of that, the Thunder lost the game. To me, it's mind-boggling. If you knew that the Thunder were going to win all of those different categories and then hold Jokic to 20 points on 8 of 25 shooting and 0 of 10 from 3, wouldn't you think the Thunder ran away with this one?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. It's crazy. And it really just came down to the 3-point shooting. It really did. The Thunder made one more field goal on 19 more shots, 19 more opportunities. The free throws, which have been an issue this series, because, Denver has got a more favorable whistle, but this game, they were pretty much even, 24-22 advantage. The Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets made 79%, and the Thunder only made 68%, which seems like, kind of an outlier, kind of a fluke. But 3-point shooting, Thunder 9 of 35, like you said, and the Nuggets 16 out of 40. I mean, that was the difference. In a game that went to overtime, in a game in which the Thunder led 102-99 in the waning seconds, Aaron Gordon hits another 3. I don't want to make it sound this simple, but the Thunder are literally 2 Aaron Gordon threes away from sweeping this series. Like, that is crazy to think. It's a 2-2 series, and like the point differential within the series is so in favor of the Thunder, and the Thunder have led, like when you look at minutes led in the series, so far advantage Thunder. But yet, because of 2 Aaron Gordon threes, and yes, there's more to it than that, but 2 Aaron Gordon threes are right now the difference between 2-2 and 4-0. But yeah, larger scale, it was just the 3-point shooting.
Yeah, and I keep going back to what we talked about when we were previewing the series and how the Thunder's margin of error was so much larger than the Nuggets' margin of error. But neither team, I think, has played at its peak either way. And I don't know what's going on, if the pressure of this series, the expectations maybe that the team is feeling, the Thunder are pretty far away from their peak performances. And even despite that, game 3 was a really close game down to the wire, and probably an Aaron Gordon 3 from being a Thunder victory. But do you think the pressure is getting to the team?
I mean, I do think there is something to be said for championship experience that the Nuggets have. You've been there, you've done that. And there's almost something like kind of in the bank when you've won a championship, and so the pressure, I don't think, is as high. So you've already done it. You've been there, but also less pressure, as opposed to being a young team that hasn't gone through kind of those trials yet and taken their lumps and learned that playoff experience. And maybe you do get a little bit tighter, and the expectations are a little bit larger on a team that won 68 games and had the best point differential of all time and are the heavy favorites to make it out of the West. And you haven't done it before, so you don't kind of have that in the bank, and there is more pressure on you. I think there is something to be said for that, for sure. They're trying to prove themselves still, which I think is tougher, and you get a little bit tighter than as opposed to trying to win another one. So I do think that there's something to be said for that, which is why I think the Game 4 win was so impressive, because they took their lumps in game 1 and game 3, 2 games they probably should have won. Game 1 for sure they should have won. And all the doubts about clutch time, they're on the road, the championship experience for the Nuggets, and it flipped. It was the Thunder who made all the big plays down the stretch, that executed, that hit their shots, that didn't miss free throws. So I thought it was a really, really impressive kind of turning the narrative on its head in game 4.
Yeah, and while you were a step ahead, I think we know where things end up with Shea in game 4 versus game 3. But going back to game 3, Shea really struggled. He had a great game 2, but in game 3, he shot the ball really poorly. He was 7 of 22 from the field, just 1 of 6 from 3. He missed 2 free throws in a night that, as you noted, the Thunder made just 15 of 22 in a game that went to overtime. He did have 13 rebounds and 7 assists and 2 steals, so he still, was a complete player. But he struggled, and he struggled in game 1 as well. And through a lot of parts of game 4, he was struggling. The whole matchup of Jokic versus SGA was the headliner of this series, as both were the MVP finalists, but it really has come down to the role players. I mentioned asked the question about whether the team is pressing a little bit with the weight of expectations. Is Shea feeling that?
I mean, for sure. I would think so. Like, Shea's incredible, obviously, and he's going to deservedly win MVP this year. He solidified himself as the top 3 to 5 player in this league. But, I mean, he's human, and everybody, you saw it with Michael Jordan had to go through this. LeBron James had to go through this. All the greats have to go through this. I mean, even like more recently with the Celtics, they were the best team arguably for a couple of years there. But, when you haven't done it yet, there is a pressure, in these playoffs when you're the guy, and, especially within context, they are scheming their entire defense around stopping Shea. Like, this whole zone that they're doing, this whole, taking away the paint and forcing role players to hit 3, it's all because of the fear of what Shea can do to them. And so, that's tough, because you want to take the shots that you normally take, and those are, getting tougher and tougher to get to. It's tougher and tougher to get to your spots because, they're tilting the defense every single possession. They're doing it around you. And so, I think it's tough. Sure. I mean, he's probably feeling pressure. He's human. But that said, again, I don't want to skip ahead, but he hit big buckets, 3 really, really big buckets in clutch time in game 4. And look, nobody's percentages in these playoffs have been good. This has been a very physical playoffs, not just this series. I mean, you can look at what Jokic, you can look at SGA, but across the league, it's been tough to get buckets. Percentages, true shooting percentage, all those things are down. Teams are trying to take out, the opposing team's best player, and they're scheming defenses around those guys, but especially Shea. So yeah, the shooting percentages may not look as good as usual, but I think Shea's been. I think he's had some really, really good performances within context in these playoffs, and I think his game 4 was really, really impressive within context.
Yeah, before we advance to the game 4, the last button that I wanted to put on game 3 is we talked about how game 3 was going to be an indicator of how the series was going to go. If it was a close game, this one really started to feel like a 7-game series, but if the Thunder were able to control that game, win by double digits, then didn't give the Denver a whole lot of credibility to win the series, but it couldn't have been a closer game, right? It was literally tied in regulation. Denver had a little bit more in overtime. The Thunder could not execute in overtime, and then ultimately won this game. And so, this one started to feel like a real grind, and that the Thunder were going to have to grind this out if they were to advance. And that's exactly what game 4 was. It was an absolute grind. That first quarter was unpleasant to watch for either team. And while the Thunder had a 9-point lead after the first quarter, it was 17-8. How gross was that first quarter?
Yeah, I mean, it was as gross as it was if you were a Thunder fan. Think of being a Nuggets fan, and that's a home game for you, and you score 8 points, single digits, half of those, by the way, at the free throw line in the quarter. for the Thunder, it was a bummer because you hold a team to 8 points in a crucial must-win game, and you're only up 9. Like, it felt like the Thunder should have been up 20 to 25 points after that first quarter. But yeah, it was, how much of it was fatigue from playing late Friday night in an overtime game to turn around and playing a 2:30 tip-off on Sunday? And how much of it was, this physical good defense that both teams are playing? And how much of it was just bad shooting, bad playmaking, bad offense? I think it's kind of little column A, little column B, little column C. I think it was just kind of a perfect storm.
Well, I did expect the Thunder and Shea specifically to have a better game 4 than game 3. And Shea was better to start off in game 4. He single-handedly matched the point total of the Nuggets. He had 8 points in the first quarter. Of course, the Nuggets had 8 total points in the first quarter. He was aggressive. He was getting to the line. He shot 5 free throws in that first quarter, had 5 rebounds. And so you mentioned Shea having a bounce-back game. I think he was much better in game 4. And you're right. He had those really big baskets down the stretch. And, when the Nuggets took that lead, they had a 6-point lead. It really, in the second half, it really felt like the Nuggets had an opportunity to not necessarily close out the Thunder, but to take that 3-1 series lead would put a whole lot of pressure on the Thunder to play perfect basketball from here on out. And Shea really did, and the Thunder rise to the occasion to come back, retake the lead, and had a great fourth quarter. So the Thunder won the first and the fourth quarters despite losing the second and third quarters. What were your biggest takeaways between the third quarter when the Nuggets went on that run, and the fourth quarter when the Thunder came back?
Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, and Alex Caruso. I truly think that that bench trio just completely flipped that game. Shea closed it. He hit big bucket after big bucket when it was pretty much, it was like a 1 point, 1 possession game. And Shea hit some massive buckets. But I really, truly think Cason Wallace hit 3 straight threes from like the 2.5 mark of the third quarter to like the 8.5 mark of the fourth quarter. 9 points. He scored like 9 out of the Thunder's, I think is around 20 points. They were down 6, and his final 3 gave them a 2-point lead, and they never surrendered the lead again. I truly think those 3 guys, Aaron Wiggins, he was 3 of 6 from 3, Wallace 3 of 3 from 3 for the game, and Alex Caruso 2 of 3 for the game. So those 3 guys, 2 of 5. Those 3 guys combined for 8 out of 14 from 3. The rest of the team would have been 2 of 27. So those 3 guys or what I would say flip this game from the third quarter to the fourth quarter.
And what I found interesting is the way that the Nuggets really defended the Thunder in this game. I think they were really focused on shutting down the paint, limiting the Thunder's opportunities to score inside. And of course, a lot of that is taking away Shea's ability to create shots for himself and then create shots for his teammates. The way that J-Dub drives to the basket, they were going to shut down points in the paint. And it might have been driven in part because in game 3, the Thunder scored 56 points in the paint. Now, the Nuggets ended up winning that game, which is ironic because in game 4, the Thunder only scored 30 points in the paint versus, again, the 56 they scored in game 3. And the Nuggets were like, we're going to dare Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, and Alex Caruso and others to make 3-point shots. They really dared Lou Dort to take threes. And you're right, those 3 guys, they hit those shots when they were open, and if they don't hit those shots, we're looking at, again, a 3-1 series deficit.
Yeah, those 3 guys had the highest plus minuses on the team for the game, too. Like, I mean, it plays out exactly like it looked. Caruso was a plus 12, Wallace was a plus 12, and Wiggins was a plus 14. They changed the game, and, that's one of the strengths of this Thunder team. It's been talked about all year is their depth and how they have guys who can come in and step up. And I think Mark Daigneault, for all the criticism he took in game 1 and some maybe in game 3, I don't know how much there was in game 3. I think he needs some credit in game 4 for the adjustments he made. and for, like riding the guys that were hot in the fourth quarter. And, that won the game. I was really, really impressed, in a game where fatigue probably played a factor. Chet Holmgren said on the broadcast that it felt like the closest thing to a back-to-back in the playoffs. The fact that the Nuggets really don't have any depth and the Thunder have all this depth, and it was those three guys that stepped up and won the game, I think it's a testament to this Thunder team and what they've been all about all season long.
Yeah, and I guess I give credit to some degree to the team to sort of trust the scheme and then trust their guys to make those shots, because if you put yourself in the mindset of a fan, I think it's really tough that in these high-pressure situations where every basket matters, every possession is absolutely critical, especially in a game where neither team is able to score and score effectively. The Nuggets are out there just daring the complementary players to make shots. And the fan in me is like, no, I want J-Dub, I want Chet, I want Shea taking those shots. But the team trusted those guys, right? They kicked it out to those open shooters, and Caruso, Wiggins, and Wallace delivered. And that is the reason why the Thunder have a 2-2 series tie and are headed back to Oklahoma City, as you noted. But I think on the other hand, in this game, sort of in that same scheme of just daring those guys to shoot, the Nuggets just weren't defending Lou Dort at all. Do you think that Dort is a liability? Because he only played 19 minutes in this one.
I think in this particular game, he was a liability, but I don't think that Lou Dort is a liability. No, I think far from it. I still think that Lou Dort is an all-world defender, and Lou Dort was one of the Thunder's best three-point shooters this year and last year on high volume. And there's a huge difference, I'll say this, between Lou Dort shooting on the road and shooting at home. Like, road home splits get talked about a lot, and sometimes, they're not that drastic. But Lou's shooting splits on the road and at home are pretty drastic. Like, I would not be surprised at all to see Lou come out and shoot really, really well in Game 5 because he's at home. Like, it's a real thing. Like, you can look it up. I can't remember what it was, but I want to say there's like a 10% difference in his three-point shooting this season at home and on the road. I know I should be able to just look that up or have it memorized, but I can't think of it right now. We're recording late, so I'll blame it on that, but it's really just brain farting. But no, I think that in this particular game, the fact that they weren't guarding Lou and the fact that Lou wasn't hitting, I think it was the right move to sit Lou in the fourth quarter and down the stretch, and that helped win the game. But I still believe in Lou as a whole, that Dort is a high-impact, positive player for this Thunder team, and he's going to be needed. If the Thunder advance past this series, if they're playing Anthony Edwards, if they're playing, even beyond that in a finals possible series, if you're playing Brunson or if you're playing, Tyrese Halliburton, whoever it is, you're going to need Lou Dort. And there's going to be some games where his three-point shooting could be a difference maker in the playoffs.
Yeah, and even despite the poor shooting, I don't think Dort's defense was bad. I think he defended Murray just as well as he has all series. And while Murray has gotten points here and there, he's had to fight. Murray's had to fight for every point that he has scored. In Game 4 in particular, he was just 5 of 15 shooting and scored 17 points. So the defense for the Thunder, really, this entire series has been there.
Yeah, the defense has been outstanding for as much as, the shot making and the shooting and the three-point shooting in particular has been talked about. This defense, it was already a historic elite defense throughout the regular season, but it's gone to another level, especially when you look at how they're defending Jokic in particular. Like, what they've done to defend Jokic between Hartenstein, Chet, and especially Jay Will. Man, shout out to Jay Will and how he's defending Jokic. So impressive, and just swarming, throwing bodies, also limiting his playmaking. He's got more turnovers than assists. Like, just wild stuff defensively from the Thunder. And hopefully we see that, in Game 5, that, the home court advantage, the Thunder feed off the energy of the crowd. And that's why I think you saw Game 2 get so out of hand. None of us expecting another Game 2. But I think every Thunder fan would appreciate it if it wasn't another game 1, 3, or 4 that came down to the clutch and down to the final seconds and leave it in the hands of a possible Aaron Gordon 3.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a pretty wild and raucous crowd on Tuesday for Game 5. But why don't you play coach for a little bit here? Again, knowing what you know about games 1 through 4, and really that this series is now down to a coin flip series. What do you think the keys are for the Thunder to take Game 5?
Obviously, shoot better, which I think they will because they're at home, and then just continue doing what you're doing defensively against Jokic. Like, I think that's the one worry is like, okay, Jokic, is he going to break out of this? Like, despite this incredible defense from the Thunder, you're just kind of like dreading like this huge Jokic game that, could turn a game. But I think the keys will be if the Thunder play the defense they've been playing, they should shoot better at home. So if the defense stays the same and you got the home court advantage and you're shooting better, things should go well in Game 5.
And if you're the Nuggets, do you start to worry about exhaustion for your guys? I mean, Jokic played 43 minutes in Game 4, again, coming off an overtime matchup where Jokic played 44 minutes. Murray had 48 in Game 3, and in Game 4, Murray played 41. Christian Braun played 44 minutes in Game 4 and also 43 minutes in Game 3. Aaron Gordon had 38 in Game 4 and also 46 minutes in Game 3. Is all that time on the court and the Nuggets' reliance on really about 6 guys a risk in Game 5? Or are we, like that's going to impact them more in Game 7?
I mean, you would think so. You would think all this, it's all building up. You would think like the fatigue doesn't go away. They're still playing every other day. Now you got this travel day for Game 5, and you'll have a travel day for Game 6 in between. So your rest day, or you got travel days in there. So look, the Thunder are deeper and they are younger. So you would think as far as fatigue goes, that will definitely be an advantage towards Thunder. But ultimately, these are professionals. Their stamina and stuff. Yes, fatigue could play a factor for sure, but I don't think that automatically swings the game. I think it can definitely help the Thunder. If it's going to be advantage anyone, it will be the Thunder. But if you're the Thunder, you can't just like count on, hey, we're at home, so we got the home court advantage. We're younger. They're going to be more fatigued. They just came off a 7-game series. We came off the rest. Like the Thunder is still going to have to go out, play hard, play their brand of ball, and execute because this Denver team, despite fatigue, despite the lack of depth, they're not going to roll over. They are going to play hard. They just got punched in the mouth, lost a game that they probably felt like they should have won finally. And they're going to want to redeem that. They know that their backs are against the wall if they lose Game 5 because then they got to win 2 in a row. So the Nuggets are going to come out and swing hard. I just think that if the Thunder play their game and play to the best of their ability at home, I think that they'll win, regardless of of the Nuggets. If the Thunder play what they're capable of playing to the level.
Yeah, and as we're down to Game 5 and just a few games left in the series, I mean, Game 5 really does seem like a must-win for both teams, but I'll ask it this way. Do you think the winner of Game 5 wins the series?
I believe so, yes. And weirdly, I think there's more pressure on the Thunder because if the Thunder, I think it's more of a must-win for the Thunder, I'll say that. Because if the Thunder lose, then Game 6 is in Denver and they can wrap it up. Whereas if you're Denver, you can lose Game 5, and then you feel like, you got Game 6 at home, and then it's 1 game sample size in Game 7. And yes, it will be in OKC, but all of a sudden that's the first time that there will be a 2-day rest before Game 7. And they have the championship experience. They've been there. They've been in Game 7s. They played well in Game 7s for the most part. So you would I feel like it's a must-win for both teams, and I do feel like whoever wins Game 5 will win the series, but I feel like it's even more of a must-win for the Thunder. They got to take Game 5. You got to win that one at home.
All right. I'm feeling the pressure already. Well, let's talk about some other things that are happening around the league and the NBA at large. Tonight was, recording here on Monday night, was the NBA draft lottery.
Oof.
Tell me how you feel after the lottery results were announced.
All right. if you're a Thunder fan, I think that was the second worst case scenario. The Mavs had the ultimate fumble, like your nemesis from last year had the ultimate fumble and were rewarded with a generational talent in Cooper Flagg. And then the looming Spurs with Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, who just kind of like feels like this kind of looming rival in the West. They get the number 2 pick. Are you serious? So Cooper Flagg to the Mavs, and then probably Dylan Harper to the Spurs. And oh yeah, you didn't get the 76ers pick. 76ers jumped into the top 4. Oh yeah, more salt in the wound. The announcers on TV said that the Thunder actually got that pick and they were going to be picking at number 7. So everybody thought that the Thunder had the number 7 overall pick. Oh, whoops, we made a mistake. Our bad. No, they didn't. And it was believable because those teams jumped up that were behind the 76ers. So it makes sense that the 76ers fell and the Thunder got the number 7 overall pick. I think that the only, scenario that could have been worse is if they flip-flopped and it was the Spurs who got Cooper Flagg and the Mavs got the number 2 pick. But just brutal results, not only for the Thunder fans, though, but really for all of the West. Like, the West just keeps getting tougher and tougher. Now Cooper Flagg is in the West. It's nuts. I tweeted this out. I think the real lottery winner is whichever West team gets to go to the East once expansion and realignment happens, because the West is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and again, with these draft results, will be for years to come. But, this lottery result, could Nico have scripted it any better for the Mavs?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the fact that Nico Harrison makes arguably the worst NBA trade of all time and is rewarded with Cooper Flagg because of it. Like, they don't get Cooper Flagg if they don't make that trade. Now, obviously, that wasn't the intention. If anything, you maybe blame the Grizzlies because they would have kept their lottery pick had they just lost that play-in game to the Mavs, and the Mavs wouldn't have got Cooper Flagg. But the Grizz had to go all out and make the playoffs. But, it would have been better for everybody if the Grizzlies would have just lost that game and let the Mavs win that game. No, I'm just kidding, but kind of not really. Yeah, Nico Harrison getting gifted Cooper Flagg after that trade is just the ultimate, like, falling upwards into the luckiest. It's hard to believe. Like, I don't think it's rigged. I've seen people saying it's rigged, and I understand why. I get it. I just can't believe it's rigged, or else everything I love about this game goes out the window. So I don't think it's rigged, but man, I can't believe that the 1.8% odds actually happened to the one team. Like, you feel like absolutely most did not deserve to get Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, and I don't think it's rigged, obviously, but I think this just adds to this NBA season being incredibly wild. And I think the results in some of the other playoff matches are an indication of just how crazy this season is, because you really had two teams that were extraordinarily dominant during the regular season, the Thunder and the Cavs. They were far and away the best in the NBA as far as record goes. And then you had, the Celtics, who didn't have as dominant of a record, but everybody felt like, the Celtics are extraordinarily good, pretty much a shoe-in to make the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, both the Celtics and the Cavs are down 3-1. Cavs look like they're in big trouble with Donovan Mitchell out, potentially injured for a decisive Game 5. And then in tonight's game between the Celtics and the Knicks won 121-113. Jason Tatum suffers a non-contact injury that looks like people are theorizing it's Achilles injury. Like, what is going on in the playoffs this season?
It is absolutely wild. You nailed it. I feel bad. Every podcast or radio show that I've been on for the past few weeks where I was asked about the East, and I was like, oh, it's going to be the Cavs and Celtics. Like, we don't really need to even, delve too much on that. I just kind of blew it off. Well, I look like an idiot, as I'm sure a lot of people do, because we all thought it was going to be the Cavs and Celtics. I feel horrible for Jason Tatum if it ends up being as bad as it looked. Hopefully not, but man, just absolutely brutal. But, regardless of that injury, it looked like they might have been going down, 3-1 anyways. Just absolutely crazy results that the Cavs and Celtics are down 3-1, and it's looking like it's going to be the Pacers and Knicks. And, in the West, the Lakers went out. Everybody thought the Lakers were making the Western Conference Finals. The Rockets were the 2 seed that nobody believed in, but they were still the 2 seed, and they're out now. So in the West, you have the Thunder and then the Nuggets as 1 and 4, and you got 6 and 7. And in the East, the Cavs and Celtics are out. It's just really, really hard to believe the results. Like a 60-win team in the Cavs and the championship team Celtics that looked dominant and was everybody's pick to go back to the finals. Just nuts.
Well, and I know there are some games to go, so those series are not quite wrapped up yet, but it sure looks like we're going to have a Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Finals. Would you say that, again, looking at what's in the East versus what's remaining in the West, that more likely than not, the Western Conference champion has the best odds to take the championship this year?
I believe so. I really believe so. Like, all due respect to the Knicks, they played really well in the playoffs, but they struggled big time against the Pistons. And, they struggled, sporadically throughout the regular season. And the Pacers, they have been fantastic in the playoffs. Like, they deserve a lot of credit. But, they've played a Cavs team that's struggled with injuries, some serious injuries in that series. That's definitely affected it. They have a great offense, and when they're clicking, they can beat anybody. But they also have a pretty bad defense, and I don't know if they have the ability to kind of mask things defensively like the way the Nuggets have in this series to kind of make their defense better in the playoffs than it was in the regular season. So you feel like if the Cavs and Celtics are out of it, like, are the arguably, I'm not saying it's for sure, but arguably the 4 best teams left could be in the West if the Warriors are healthy, if they had Curry and Butler. But like the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Wolves, and a healthy Warriors, like, are all those teams arguably better than the Knicks and Pacers? I would argue yes.
Yeah, and you look actually at the current odds of who's going to win the championship. The Thunder have the best odds at minus 105. So betting on the Thunder would actually not double your money. But then the Knicks have the second best odds. Does that surprise you, though, knowing what's still remaining in the West versus the East?
No, because the West is more of a crapshoot. Because, like we said, there's so many good teams still. The 4 remaining teams, if Curry were healthy, are also good. You could see any sort of scenario as far as like a team coming out of the West. The Thunder is the best team. But, with it being a 2-2 series right now, would it be shocking if the Thunder didn't come out of the West? No. Whereas the Knicks are up 3-1, and then they're likely playing the Pacers. So it makes sense to me, odds-wise. Like, honestly, the Knicks and Pacers should be really, really high because it looks like they're going. And, their competition to get to the finals is just each other, which isn't as tough as what you're facing in the West.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Well, the last thing I want to ask is, the question on probably most people's mind that is not related to Game 5 is, when is the league going to announce the MVP award winner?
It's crazy. I cannot find out. Like, I've asked some people who would know these things. I'm refreshing my email and my social media all the time. There has been no announcement about the announcement. Like, no, like, it's crazy. Like, not only have we not got the MVP announcement, we just haven't even got the announcement of when the announcement's going to be. I don't know at this point. You thought that especially once it was announced, it was going to be, or once it was decided it was the Thunder Nuggets, you kind of figured it would be sometime during this series. I honestly would prefer the league to wait until after this series, just because I feel like it's going to be Shea, and I feel like that would give some extra motivation to the Nuggets. And most assuredly, I would want them to wait. Don't make it happen like before Game 6, where they already have the home court advantage and those fans would be ticked off because their guy didn't win it and Shea did, and add that extra fuel. So if anything, I hope it's in the Western Conference Finals when it's announced, and I surely hope it's not before Game 6.
See, now, putting on my conspiracy hat, I think they announce it before Game 7 if there's a Game 7.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, because it's already like all eyes are going to be on there, like the storylines and everything. And then you add that to it. Yeah, which again, like, even if it's at home, you don't like it if you're a Thunder fan, just because the little extra motivation, not that you need any extra motivation in a game 7 with the Western Conference Finals on the line, but Jokic's teammates and Jokic himself might fight that little extra 1% harder because, they feel like their guy or he himself didn't get what he should have got. So any extra motivation for them is, I think, not a great thing. So hopefully they wait, but I'm with you. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I still think it's coming in this series at some point. I think they're going to say, hey, it's coming 2 days from now, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, and that's what made sense, right? You've got the 2 MVP finalists between Jokic and SGA, when I think pretty much everybody agrees it's going to be one of them who takes the MVP award. It should be announced during this series, but with it likely being SGA, I certainly agree with you. I don't want there to be any motivation on the part of Nuggets fans before Game 6 or the team before Game 6 or 7 for the Nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. And, it makes sense for them to do it, but hopefully not if you're a Thunder fan. It's going to be great, though, when it happens. Like, as far as the fact that the Thunder more than likely will have 3 MVPs in the past, decade is absolutely unprecedented, crazy stuff, and it's pretty exciting time to be a Thunder fan, despite those lottery results tonight.
Well, I'm feeling very nervous about the game tomorrow, game 5, but certainly excited and glad that this one is in front of the home crowd because, as you noted, I mean, this is absolutely critical for the Thunder to advance out of this series.
Yeah, must win game 5, and the crowd is going to be electric. I'm excited to be in the arena tomorrow night and kind of witness this game. So much riding on the line with this game. It's going to be intense. It's going to be fun, and the crowd is going to be awesome.
That's right. Well, you heard it, Thunder fans, though. You guys better bring it in Loud City tomorrow night. Brandon is already expecting the crowd to show up. So if the crowd doesn't show up, it'll be quite the disappointment. And then Brandon would go home sad. So I don't think that'll be the case. I think we're going to have a pretty loud crowd. And I'm certainly hoping more of Game 2 than Game 1.
Yes, absolutely. So is co-signed by every Thunder fan for sure.
That's right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder Podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder Podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back in your feed soon.